Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. I am your host, Simon Redhand, and today we have Mythwrecked, Ambrosia Island Demo, Redhanded. So today we check in with Steam. They're hosting what they call the Storytellers Festival, a collection of story-rich games created by smaller studios. They range from puzzle-style adventure games to full-blown RPGs, and what I like to do when I come across these Steam-oriented collections are skim through the titles and see if anything catches my eye. This is how I found Hades a few years back, and more recently how I found a great game known as Ravenous Devils, which I plan on doing a red-handed review on, and perhaps even a Red's play, which is what I like to call my Let's Plays of a second playthrough. I pulled several games from the Storytellers Festival this time around, and the first of which I'm jumping into, Mythwrecked, is a cozy game created by a small studio known as Polygon Treehouse, slated for a Q3 2024 release. I've never played any other titles from them, but when I looked them up, the only other game they had also looked like something I would be interested in playing. Known as Roki, released back in 2020, it's another story-rich game with a similar art style focused on puzzles and narrative choice. Roki is currently on sale until February 4th, so if you like Mythwrecked and you want to check it out while you wait for its full release, the link will be in the description.
Island.
This is not a paid promo, but if I'm going to use their content to create my own, why not pay it forward? In Mythwrecked, you play a backpacker by the name of Alex. You wake up stranded on a mysterious island, devoid of memories and a real explanation for how you got there, and you're given a simple task, just to find someone to answer your questions. There isn't much of an intro, nor is there any voice acting besides minor grunts and sometimes speaking the first few words of the dialogue as they pop up. Perhaps that will change in the full release, but it did make it difficult to really immerse myself in the game, especially when some of the dialogue chatter sound like noises you would hear from characters in The Sims. As you make your way forward, it's clear you only have one direction to go: east. You come across a series of items and objects on your way, and you can interact with them, but all of them pretty much tell you not to interact with them at all at this time. What really drew me into this game was the art style. It's got a great cel-shaded aesthetic, and the game looks really beautiful. The world is most likely not that big, and judging from the narrative, most likely takes place on a few small set pieces around the small island, which is not necessarily a bad thing, and with a smaller scope, the devs can really use that to focus on the finer details of the game. The path ultimately leads you to a talking statue by the name of Oracle, which you refer to as Aura for the duration of the demo. She gives you an Ambrosia dex, a special tablet that functions as your inventory and a tool for contacting the other folks you will encounter on the island. The game has a heavy social interaction, and it wants you to speak with the characters as you encounter them in the world several times to unlock their stories and ultimately to find your next objective, which at this time was to find a location: the seaplane. I set off in search of the seaplane, which is where I would find the only other character you can interact with in this demo, the messenger. On the way there, I noticed all the bushes now had these yellow fruit growing on them, which I later found out is used as a barter currency to unlock items from the characters you encounter and build relationships with. The character interactions are akin to Persona, which you speak to the characters and complete tasks they give you and give them gifts to increase their overall affinity and relationship levels. As these levels increase, what they're willing to tell you and do for you also increases. As you encounter new items, creatures, and points of interest, you unlock topics of interest. You use these topics to increase your interactions with the characters on the island, which can lead to new quests and ultimately more relationship experience to further your bonds. After running east and finding the inaccessible route to the orchard, I backtracked to Aura and found the door which required a Pegasus key to open. This forced me back on the path to finding the messenger and his seaplane. Upon reaching the seaplane, I was introduced to another mechanic the game has, which is a daily routine cycle. The characters live their own lives, and at certain times of the day, will be found at certain locations and sometimes inaccessible at that time or until you raise your relationship affinity levels. This prompted me to figure out a way to pass the time, which leads me right back to Aura, who tells me to use the lighthouse as my home. The lighthouse starts off bare bones, but this is where that swap currency comes into play. As you raise your affinity, you can use the golden fruits to buy decor for the lighthouse. Not only that, you can find the items to help decorate the lighthouse while you're running around the island. I noticed these items automatically applied themselves when I returned to the lighthouse. I am not sure if there's a menu of some sort that will allow you to adjust between other cosmetics and decors you find, or maybe there's just this set finite amount in the game. After a short rest until dawn, I returned to the seaplane where I finally met the messenger, Hermes, who despite his attire is actually overdressed according to Greek mythos. He's supposed to be naked. Hermes isn't friendly to begin with, and he just wants you to leave. As you cycle through his dialogue choices, you come across several topics he just refuses to speak on until you raise your affinity. As you go through the dialogue, you will notice that things you've discovered while exploring the island will become topics of discussion, and the level of detail he's willing to go into will be based on his current friend level for you at the time, prompting you to go back and talk to characters repeatedly as you discover more items, points of interest in the world, or raise your relationship levels with that character. Hermes eventually gives you the suggestion to go feed the birds and gives you the food to do it. The task takes about 5 minutes and involves backtracking the full length of the island available in the demo in order to feed the 4 birds required to complete the quest. The task is not very challenging, and unfortunately, not very interesting. It feels more like busy work than anything else. But it does the job to raise your friend level, which is what you're trying to do. When you return to Hermes, he shows his gratitude by giving you firewood to start the lighthouse brazier, and Alex gets her first hint that Hermes might be more than just an eccentric hermit living on a seaboat. Hermes lets you know that his memory is also spotty. He doesn't remember anything and asks you to find objects he lost in hopes to help him remember himself. This tasks you with finding items, and the Ambrosia dex is upgraded with a radar which will ping and alert you when you're close to objects that might belong to other characters on the island, and when gifted to the right character will help increase your affinity level. The items you're looking for that belong to Hermes are his legendary winged sandals and his messenger bag, and upon returning these items to Hermes, he's grateful. If you're into Greek mythology, you understand the importance of these 2 items. This act raises his affinity to the next level, and he will now allow you to enter his home, give you access to his swap shop to trade those golden fruits you've been collecting, and speak with him during his off hours. When you search his home, you'll find a cassette tape collectible and the Pegasus motif which locked the door behind Aura. With the motif in hand, you will backtrack to Aura and to the door. Upon inserting it into the door, you'll be given a very simple puzzle of which its completion will mark the end of the demo. All in all, I am mixed on the game so far. I found the pacing to be incredibly slow for me. However, I love the art direction, and I found the music to be quite pleasant. It's what I've been playing in the background of this video. I'm not quite sure this style of game is for me. I need more combat in between my social relationship building, but that's not to take away from what this game is attempting to do. A modern twist on the old Greek gods, which is more about a journey of discovery than violence, will be more than welcomed by a certain audience of players who will just want to relax and enjoy a story. Like I said before, the art style is amazing. The performance of the game itself was smooth with no bugs or crashes that I found. To be quite honest, for those of you who are into games like Life is Strange, Oxenfree, or even Firewatch, you might really appreciate this title. Think of it like Persona without Devil Fusion. With these red-handed reviews, there are no scores, or buy and sell ratings, no trash or pass, or any sort of attempt to sway your opinions on the game in any way, shape, or form. These are made only to speak my thoughts, and you will know if I like the game in the long run, because you will see me creating letsplays for the game in the not too distant future. Thank you guys for dropping by. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm new to the content creation space, and as I continue to produce, I will continue to improve. I appreciate you guys for giving me your time. Like and subscribe if you want to continue to take this journey with me. Have yourselves a good morning, and If this is the only video you watched from me today, a good afternoon or good night